single best thing my parents ever did for me, apart from being good parents, was to send me to boys' Latin school. Mercifully, wonderfully, my father's social friends were Bill Burnt's father and Henry LeBrun's father, both of whom are distinguished alumni, by the way, over there. And because I grew up knowing them as bigger friends in the neighborhood, he always wanted me to have boys' Latin, which is what they had. And because of that, I was sent here in the 7th grade.
I'm John Erlock. I came to Boys Latin in 1954 in the 6th grade. From that 6th grade class, there were 4 of us that graduated in 61 as in the first graduating class here. Tommy Taylor, Joe Perkins, Matt Toth, and myself. And it was a great experience all the way through. The size of the classes, the 6th grade class was 12 people. The 7th grade class was 21, and then they got a little bit bigger 8th and 9th grade, and then I think we graduated with 15. There's so many things to remember about Boys Latin back on Brevard Street. Things like the smoke coming through the windows in the springtime when there's no air conditioning, the windows are open, and the steam train goes by. I think a lot of people remember that sort of thing. But we had a great time. We had great teams. We had great sports. We had great teachers. I had nothing that I can complain about. It was a wonderful experience all the way around.
I'm John Andrews. I came in the 7th grade as well, and stayed and graduated from here in 61 with John and the others. And the teachers were the things that I remember the best. Mr. Morris, Mr. Bruce, name a couple, Mr. King. But it was a wonderful experience. I would highly recommend it to anyone who can do it again, or children, grandchildren. I'd say it would be wonderful. Thank you.
My name is Alvin Manger. I'm the class of 53. I came in 1947, which makes me rather old. I like the gentleman beside me, it was the teachers that did the most for me, particularly Mr. Morris. He kind of guided me, and Mr. Curtis, which many of you probably didn't know, in history, which was my favorite subject. And it was a joy to be there, and particularly to come back like today and see old friends from that time.
I'm Ray Brooks. I was also in the class of 53 with Al. And all of a sudden I realized that so far all the guys are a bunch of youngsters. I got kids almost your age. I started in Boys Latin in, I think it was either 48 or 49, in the 8th grade, and then graduated in 53. And there were 12 in our graduating class. Al's in my graduating class. But I think only 6 or 7 of us graduated at graduation, and the rest of them had to come back and go to summer school before they could graduate. But I do remember Mr. King and Miss Smith. I do. Everybody laughed when I said Miss Smith. I wonder, huh? Was that his name, Claude? I couldn't remember what his name was.
And his son Earl.
Oh, is Earl? Was Earl in our class? Yeah. Earl, that's right. His son was in our class. Yeah. So at any rate,
Bill Burnt, class of 54. I came in the 8th grade, and interestingly, Buzzy Williams was at the school at the time. Buzzy's no longer with us, and I had to, in order to catch up, Latin started in the 7th grade, and I was a year behind when I went to Boys Latin. So Buzzy's grandfather, a fellow named Mr. Metzger, tutored me in Latin over the summer before I showed up in the 8th grade at Boys Latin. But what a great school, great friends. I agree with Carol so much that people who have been to this school loved it. It always fascinated me that a school with maybe 125 people in it, grades 1 to 12, could compete with schools that had 120 in their senior class. It always seemed to be a miracle. And we were sometimes middle of the road, but always competitive and brought home not my class, but our share of championships. Actually, we did 6-man football. We did win the championship. So.
Mickey Webster discovered that the building, Boys Latin in Brevard Street, was built on a little bit of a slant. And he discovered that, and what he would do, and I watched him do it from being in Miss Smith's class, he would get the door and move it just a little bit out from the wall, and then he'd run and sit in the study hall. And the door, meanwhile, would be closing, and Miss Smith would go nuts and start yelling, "Mr. Hahn, Mr. Hahn." Mickey Webster was in his seat. So when Mickey left, he was 2 years ahead of me. I wanted to carry that tradition on, and I tried to keep up. I'm Don Lane, though, and I graduated in '57. I went to the school twice, 49 and 50, and then came back in '54. And, it's all been said. I'm just going to say Mr. Morris was the best influence I could have ever hoped to have in my life as a teacher. I never met another one like him. And the rest were great, no question about it, but he stood out head and shoulders above everybody.
I'm Tim Gilbert. I'm the baby in the group. I started in the 3rd grade in 1959 at Brevard Street and graduated here. My 3rd grade teacher on Brevard Street, and my 4th grade teacher, the moms of Bruce and Ronnie Regan, Doris Regan, fantastic. And another fine memory is Carol Klingelhofer drove a Model A to school, and he was kind enough to give us rides in it out to wherever the sports things were. And then we moved out here. We would meet him in the morning at the gate and ride the running boards to the bottom of the hill where the parking was. But my experience at BL going here, was great fortune. I attribute it and having grown up in the neighborhood, not being in jail today or, somewhere more scurrilous. But BL's been a great place.
Bill Gilroy, class of '65. I was a 12-year student at BL. I entered the 1st grade in 1953 and graduated here in '65. Have so many wonderful memories of times here at BL and of the friendships we made and the things we did together, and still are treasures to be remembered. It meant so much to me that both of my sons came to BL, graduated in '92 and '95, and both of them went to the Naval Academy, so BL did a lot for them and for me as well. So it's great to be here with a lot of old friends and some new friends too, and looking forward to some of the memories that we have of Brevard Street today.
My name is Tom Peace. I entered Boys Latin in the fall of 1960, the first day it opened here at Lake Avenue. My one experience with Brevard Street is I was admitted to Brevard Street to Boys Latin School 3 months before the school opened, and about 3 days before the school downtown was about to be torn down. So here we are, Lake Avenue. I graduated in 1965. The Brevard Street infusion into my life, even though I didn't go to school there, and the spirit they brought to Lake Avenue, I can still feel it in the halls out here at 822. And I want to thank all you gentlemen for being such a positive influence on me. I graduated, as I said, in '65. I have a son, Drew, who graduated from here in '03. And now I have 2 grandsons here at the school. One's in the 6th grade. He's in the class of 29. And then the 1st grader's in the class of 34. And maybe there's another grandson coming next year, and maybe they'll just throw me out of the gym. But in any case, thank you for doing this, Mac and Craig and Dyson. This is fantastic.
I'm Pete McGill, graduated in '59, started in '55, so I did 4 years high school, and one of the first people I met, who I've now known all my life, was Dyson Earhart. He's my claim to fame at Boys Latin. He immediately taught me the ropes, and if it wasn't for Dyson, I'm not sure I would have done as well as I did. But also, can't go without saying Mr. Morris, the best teacher I ever had. I went to UVA, graduated in Virginia, but nobody could stand in his shadow. He was so good. And the subject of English is so important that I just have to highlight that. Thank you.
I'm High Levis, sir. I went
started in boys Latin in the 7th grade and went through the 12th, and I always used to remember that going to school and doing homework was difficult and not fun and everything. And after I'd been at boys Latin for a year or so, I thought, going to school is fun. And there was all kinds of humor going on. You still got an excellent education and I always had great friends on the different athletic teams. I remember Okie coached everything, ran study hall with an iron hand and coached football, basketball, and lacrosse. And my dear friend Don Lane was the center on the football team when I was a quarterback. And there was all kind of humor going on, half of which I can't talk about right now and so on. Am I allowed to say what Miss Smith would always say to us all the time? No? Well, anyway, she was famous, and I wish Phil Muth was still here because he had a close association with Miss Smith. And if you went to school at the same time, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I loved boys Latin, still do, and many, many friends that I got to know there. Thank you so much.
I'm Bill Miller. I started in 1952 in the 2nd grade with, I can't remember whether I was the 3rd or the 4th, but that's what we started with when we got out in 62. There were 19 of us. And Brevard Street, I was there for 8 years, and I guess my best memories were the people, but Shipley Hall, the playground, circle lacrosse, the bar justice, bamboo pole that Mace used to smack you with in the head when you were in the pool. Just a lot of great memories, a lot of great people.
My name's Lair Jackson, and I started in 47, commuted almost from Annapolis up here on the B&A train to Camden Yards, caught the streetcar up Howard Street, and it was a long ride. My mom passed away my junior year, and we had to collect my 2 brothers who both went here. My uncle went here. My cousins all went here, but we basically had to relocate and went to Severn. But I did get a chance to beat boys Latin when I was at Severn in lacrosse, which was kind of fun because Okie and I were at opposite ends of the field, but it was I started with Peter or Pete and Dyson, and we had a great time. We had great teachers, Miss Reagan and Tilly Woodward, and Mr. Morris was one of a kind. But he really made it happen. He was tough, but but it was really fun. And I have to say it's the most memorable, 11 years of my life. But I didn't get a degree from boys Latin until 2020. I got my degree. So I was, Dyson probably had something to do with it. But he said, God, he went here 11 years and didn't get a frickin' degree. We got to take care of this guy. Anyway, I'm the most proud of boys Latin of all the schools I ever went to, including the University of Virginia.
My name is John Ashworth. I graduated in 1962. That was the 2nd class to graduate. All the memories that I'm hearing go around, but particularly the one of the car, Carol. I remember that so well. I started in the 6th grade at Brevard Street. Just like you all, Mr. Morris, I constantly say that to my wife about it. Anytime I'm correcting her relative to her English, I cite Mr. Morris, and she gets sick and tired of hearing me say that. But he was a great teacher. I remember so well throwing the spitballs in his. We would always be throwing the spitballs up on the ceiling, and see if they would stick and maybe drop down in the next class, or throwing them while people were waiting in line. And seeing if we could avoid hitting Mr. Morris with one of the spitballs, but I remember the spitballs really well. I have a grandson here now who just started and hopefully is going to do something well with the basketball team as he goes in from the 9th grade. He came out of Calvert, and my step-grandson graduated from here last year and went on up to the University of Delaware. Great school. One thing that I keep hearing that makes me very proud is as I just retired from the University of Maryland Medical System, where I worked for 47 years, and I know a lot of people who basically are into the private school. We need to make a decision about where our kids are going to go. And I hear over and over and over again how good Boys Latin is being viewed by the community now. It has really, really done well, not only in terms of obviously the physical assets that we have now, but the recognition of its academic programs and the way that it treats its students, particularly in today's environment where we're going through a lot of the woke stuff. Boys Latin really stands out. So congratulations to all of you all for what you've done, Dyson, to make this a great school. And I'm very proud to have my grandson here for sure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ron Regan. I'm the first one of the Regan boys that graduated here in '64. I started in the first grade, and my mother came to teach in the second grade. She taught third grade. Bruce went to Cornerstone Kindergarten and then stayed with Mace in the afternoon until she could take him home. Anyway, bottom line to it is this place has been just incredibly good to me and to Bruce, and I can't believe that I couldn't get my kids here. It's a long story, but bottom line is this school has a reputation, plus it also has a spree, and no other school has it. You hear about them. I've got friends that I play ball with here that we still get together to this day, and it's incredible. So it's a great school. It's a great school because of all of us becoming part of it, and just knowing how to succeed with a work ethic and a moral code, and that's what Boys Latin did for all of us. So thank you very much, and I'm proud to be here.
My name is Bruce Regan. They often call me Ronnie because he came first. Like you said, I started in kindergarten up the street, and I would be dropped off around noon, and I would spend the rest of the afternoon in Mace's cage in the gym. And I learned two things in kindergarten from Mace. I learned how to weave and fix lacrosse sticks, and I learned to swim with the seniors because their period for activity was the last period. So I was able to swim in the pool with them, and they taught me how to swim. And that sort of set the tone. Then I was in the first grade the next year. I was the only one in the first grade in Miss Jenkins' room, as you all remember, because she had first and second grade in the same room. So the first grade line was me, and the rest of them were second graders. I don't know why they had a lousy recruitment year that year, but anyway, Ms. Jenkins was actually a really good teacher. My mother taught me in the third grade, Ms. King, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, and then went upstairs like everybody else. I had the misfortune of not having Mr. Morris as an English teacher, but I did have the good fortune of having J. Marshall Bruce as my English teacher. And I think that, I don't know whether he was as rigorous and as tough as Mr. Morris, but he was certainly a very influential teacher, and everybody loved J. Marshall Bruce the way you guys love Mr. Morris. I remember seeing Mr. Morris when I was really little, and after Okie, who really frightened the hell out of me, he was intimidating, but he was a good man. And I am so proud to be part of this school. I come back here as much as I possibly can because there's a brotherhood here, and there is a spirit and a connection that we have that no other private school in the area has, and perhaps no other private school in the country has. We become brothers. We have respect for one another, and we take care of one another, and we support one another. And when I was here, because I graduated in '66, we had remarkable lacrosse teams and won championships over the time that I was in high school. And the reason that was amazing because we were always outmanned with bigger schools, with actually even better teams, but we had finesse, we were smart, we played well, and we were coached well, and we had wonderful teachers who really instilled in us not only discipline, but also kindness and care for one another, and really appreciate that. And the only thing I have to say about my mother is that she made one mistake. And I know she really made one mistake. She hired Dyson.
I wish you could have graduated me. Dyson Earhart, class of 59. I used class of 59 because I left there, went out in the world for a while, came back to Boys Latin in 62, and for the last 61 years, I'm trying to get my diploma. And I think I'll get it shortly. But you just look around at this. I'm the lucky guy. I really am. I was fortunate enough as a young person to find out what I wanted to do, and that was teach and coach. I didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to raise money. But, I wanted to teach and coach and be a part of it. And each and every one of you, we got great stories. These kids today have these same great stories that they take off. I can't think of any place I would have rather spent my life than right here at Boys Latin. And that's thanks to each and every one of you.
My name's Mose Parrish. I did my junior and senior year here, and I used to give Okie O'Connor a fit.